Welcome everyone to the Gaming Bounding Board podcast. This is going to be episode 2 of 2026, and turning for the first time in nearly 3 years is Sputnik 34. How's it going?
It's been 3 years. Oh my goodness.
I just checked the stuff a minute ago.
That is actually an unreal. That's wild.
I know.
I hope you've been well. Hope the 3 years have been treating you well. Pretty all right.
Yeah, how you been overall? How you been doing when it comes to life and video games?
Life-wise, of the last 3 years, the last year and a half has been pretty all right. The other year and a half has been the worst, but it's fine. But I'm on the up and up, so that's good.
I mean, at least you're on the up and up.
Yeah, no, I was living in the dumps for, not literally, but living real down bad for a hot minute, and I'm doing all right relatively.
Okay. So let's catch up on a bit of lost time. So what was your game of the year in like 2024? Last time we talked, it would have been 2023. I think it was in like October of 2020.
Oh geez, 2024. I honestly don't know. I can tell you what it was for last year.
Yeah, what was your 2025 game of the year?
The game of the year that came out in 2025 was Silksong. It's the best, one of the best Metroidvanias like ever made. And this is coming from a guy that liked Hollow Knight but wasn't like in love with it. Silksong is peak. It's unreal how good that game is. Loved it from top to bottom. I definitely got furious at it, but that's the sign of a good Souls-like, or even just a good game, is when it even despite being potentially infuriated at it, you never want to stop. You only want to keep going. And despite all of the times that I got super frustrated at Silksong, I never wanted to stop playing until I beat it.
Well, that's good to hear though. I mean, that game was probably a lot of people's runner-up for game of the year in 2025, and I'm not surprised to hear that. That does bring me to, yes, because like my game of the year of 2025 was Atomfall. Did you ever see that?
Yeah, no, I played a little bit of it. It came out on Game Pass earlier in the year, and that's how I played it initially. I played, I want to say like 5-6 hours of it. I was really digging it, but I just kind of got like swamped by all kinds of stuff and never really picked it back up again. I've since canceled Game Pass for a multitude of reasons, but maybe one day I can pick that back up again at somewhere down the line, because I was really vibing with it. It was kind of like Fallout without a lot of like the actual RPG elements of it. It was just kind of like baseline exploration, baseline like very early Bethesda quest design, where it was just kind of like, you got to go down that way and take a right at this signpost, and then you'll find something. And that part of it, I really, really liked.
There was a lot of things I really loved about it, because it had that almost Metro or Stalker like feel to it, with a little bit of Fallout. But it kind of was an RPG without all the things that typically make a game an RPG, and it all felt a bit more natural feeling. It was actually a really good comparison for me, and would be Prey, which is Atomfall kind of is one of the first like only games since Prey, that like 2017, that made me feel quite the same way, where I just kind of got engrossed in the world, and all the elements that came together just kind of worked really well for me. And I feel like, even though, because it's hard to say that Atomfall falls into like a specific genre, it's very RPG adjacent, because you have like, you got your skill point kind of allocation system that is actually very reminiscent of Prey's. There's, of course, the challenge of maybe not using them. But the whole game, because every single quest in the game is a main quest. There's no main quest. There's no side quest. It's all a quest. It's leads. I think it's like one of the best ways to do quests ever. I think all video games should start doing something like that, especially RPG. Should do something where everything you do, instead of just feeling like it's part of the whole, it actually is part of the whole. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think funnily enough, like not to this quite the same extent, I finally beat New Vegas recently in the
Okay.
past like
Okay.
couple weeks. I
Yeah.
feel like Fallout New Vegas kind of fits that where like every
Yeah, it does.
quest and like every single thing that you do like kind of influences the world around you like
Yeah,
way more than like Fallout 3 ever does because like
for sure.
Fallout Fallout 3 kind of feels like all of these little separate pieces make up a whole, but
Hmm.
like in New Vegas and like Adamfall, from what you're saying, kind of
Yeah.
sound like it's like the whole is made up by everything. If that makes
Yeah.
sense,
Yeah.
it's like it's ever so slightly different, but like I think the feel of it is pretty vastly different.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's like it comes down to Obsidian's game design versus Bethesda, just something that I'm eventually going to get into this year. About how
Hmm.
people kind of confuse Bethesda game design because of Fallout New Vegas. It's all gonna like kind of lead into why I think Starfield is still just as Bethesda of a game as any other Bethesda game. But it's something I've been working on for quite some time. But basically, I feel like a lot of people played Fallout New Vegas and seen the Bethesda publishing logo on there. Really confused like Bethesda's very simplistic RPG design for something way more complex that Obsidian created. And The Outer Worlds
Hmm.
2 is a good example of the huge differences in you just compare the Outer Worlds 2 directly to Starfield and you can see the huge differences in design between the two. And it really shows like, Fallout New Vegas is just a light years beyond anything that Fallout 3 in terms of
In terms of
storytelling, game
RPG,
design.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I beat New Vegas, I think 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
and like almost immediately I did the. Have you ever played the Tale of Two Wastelands?
No.
No. Okay, so it's a gigantic Omega mod that basically
Okay. I
combines
feel like I've
Fallout
heard of it.
3. Yeah, yeah, it combines Fallout 3 and New Vegas into like a singular experience.
Okay.
It takes not everything, but like a lot of the systems from New Vegas and puts it into Fallout 3 specifically. So
Okay.
like I believe it adds weapon or ammo types. It adds strength requirements, uh,
Okay.
and like damage thresholds and stuff from New Vegas and puts it into Fallout 3 because I don't think Fallout 3 had that initially.
No, it did
Um
not.
okay, yeah. So yeah, it incorporates that into Fallout 3, which makes Fallout 3 just I think a little bit more of a strong RPG than it is like vanilla.
Oh,
But like
certainly.
playing Fallout 3 even with that, I'm just like God, it's I love Fallout 3. I don't care what
I
anybody
do too.
says. It's such a good game.
It was my first
um
Fallout game ever. Fallout 3.
so same
So,
same here. And for a
yeah.
very very long time it was the only Bethesda game I ever beat.
Okay.
Um but
The
like
funny part
so
about it
that's the
is um
go ahead.
like Fallout 3 and Morrowind are probably like the two like things that Bethesda like I mean they really like they push themselves further. Like the closest to like a really I don't know, more advanced RPG than what they're usually getting, I feel like.
Morrowind for sure. I think Fallout 3 is iffy in that regard just because like there is they attempt to do a lot, but with that
Hmm.
they don't really like push themselves over the hump that they kind of needed to.
Right.
Um, I think a lot of it comes down to simply lacking something like a strength requirement on weapons
Yeah.
because like I like to call Bethesda RPGs power fantasy RPGs in the sense
Yeah.
that like you're never really restricted in doing it whatever you want.
Hmm.
You can get better at something you're inherently good at, and that's everything. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's nothing really wrong with that necessarily, but it does kind of negate any sort of like actual building, character building, because like you could be 50 hours into Oblivion and be like, oh. I'm gonna go from using bows all the time to wielding two-handed like great swords, and there's nothing really stopping you apart from like for a little while your damage is reduced, maybe. Um,
Right.
but like um I think what a lot of people forgot about Bethesda games is that you don't really play them for the RPG elements. You
No.
play them for like just the world that they make and like just exploring and being in there. Because like literally, um, Fallout 3, while it's not even remotely close to as good of as like an actual RPG as New Vegas is,
Yeah.
New Vegas can't touch Fallout 3's exploration and just being in its world. I love New Vegas's exploration. I love the Mojave Desert. It's fantastic. It's great. It has its own unique charm and feel and atmosphere and everything. But like exploring the Capital Wasteland, dude, I'm fighting for my fucking life out there. You know what I mean? It's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely see the comparison there, and I think it also has a lot to do with the density of Fallout 3. Like Fallout 3 is an overall a more dense world than that of Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas has a lot of amazing and cool things going on, especially at each individual location throughout it. But a lot of the time spent between locations, a lot of empty. Now, there's a few things here
Mhm.
and there, but Fallout 3 has a lot more things to.
Stuff.
Yeah, it just has more stuff in general. There's just a lot more filling the area. There's not as many stretches of nothing as Fallout New Vegas has. And I mean, some people could look at that as a strength in Fallout New Vegas design because that gives you time. I don't know, it gives you reflective time or whatever. I mean, there's plenty of defenses on both sides of the fence. You know,
Oh yeah.
Fallout New Vegas is a pretty good one to bring up. Not, I mean, I think it's awesome that you finally got through it because I actually bought it for my dad. Was it? I think it was last year. Played through it for the first time, and he absolutely fell in love with it. And it was just a whole new experience of something he'd never really experienced. Atom Fall like is a good comparison to New Vegas because I feel like they kind of share something. Like there's something about those games that Elden Ring's another one. This is actually an idea that I threw around in my head ever since I played Elden Ring back when it first came out. Was I was actually gonna make a video comparing Elden Ring's game design to Fallout New Vegas's game design, and I think
Oh,
Atom Fall
interesting.
shares this exact same game design, and that is in both Atomfall, Fallout New Vegas, and Elden Ring. You have this moment where you walk out of a bunker, out of, um, out of Doc Marshall's house into Good Springs, or you walk out of the whatever that cave is at the beginning of Elden Ring, and you see the world, right?
Mm.
In the center of every single one of these worlds is something of interest, something that is extremely important to the main narrative, whether that be the Lucky 38, whether that be the power plant that has erupted in Atomfall, the wind scale plant, or that is the Erd tree in Elden Ring. All three of these things you can see from the millisecond that you walk out. It's the first thing that the biggest thing on your screen is, you can see it in the distance
Mm.
as soon as you open into the world. And as soon as you open in the world, you have this sense of, wow, this is going to be a world that I can freely explore because they just offer up this giant world with no direction. All three games start out, there's no direction. It doesn't tell you where to go or what to do. And in Fallout New Vegas, you can leave Good Springs and you can go 3 to 4 different directions. One can get you absolutely obliterated by death claws, or you can do a lot of save scumming and strategically sneak around that area and still make it to where you're trying to go. In Atomfall, you can go left or right. And you go left and you can explore the entirety of Slatendale and you can do all this stuff that's in this area. You can go right, you can end up in a bunker, you can get your first skill point, fight a mutant, or you can go to the mines and you can find like 2 different ways to enter the next area. And you can completely skip the area you start in without even going anywhere in that area. You can come back to
Mm.
it later. There's so many different directions you can go in. And the same for Elden Ring. You can go into like 100 different locations within the first few minutes of the game and make zero progress towards the main narrative. And all three of those games share that sense of freedom and exploration and natural instinct to just explore to your heart's content. but you know at the back of your mind at all times your goal is to lead in the direction of that big thing in the distance.
See big thing, feel
Yeah,
need to go
exactly.
to touch
But,
big thing.
yeah, I mean, but you get what I'm saying though, right? About the overall,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
what they
no,
share.
totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a,
I
like
think
a video concept
I
that's been
actually
around for a
I
while.
actually think that between New Vegas and 3, I think 3 is probably better in that regard, honestly, because, like, well, never but well, I mean, I guess you don't even necessarily need to go to well, do you have to go to into New Vegas, actually? Maybe I'm talking out of my ass. I feel like maybe you don't actually have to go inside New Vegas, but maybe I'm wrong.
You do actually have to go to well, I think you can beat Fallout New Vegas without going to Vegas. Maybe not though. I think you do actually have to go to Vegas to talk to Mr. House and all these other things to progress the story into Hoover Dam. Um, but that's just for like finishing like just the overall main narrative. Whereas
That's
Fallout
fair, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Three,
I mean, I
whereas
guess you
Fallout,
do have to go inside DC. I mean, you could see the Washington Monument and I think the Capitol from the vault too.
yeah, but that's not like your main goal. You know what I mean? So like from moment one, your goal is to figure out what happened to you and get to Vegas. Like that's your goal. Like everything else is
Yeah.
just part of that. Like your main mission at the very beginning is to go there. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, that's fair.
and it's like an atom vault. Your main objective is to figure out what's up with the wind scale plant, what happened to me. Elden Ring, obviously I need to go to the Erd Tree. But Fallout 3, it's like you come out and you already have kind of an objective that for the most part leads you straight to Megaton. You can't even progress the story unless you talk to people in Megaton. You can't progress the story at all if you don't go to Megaton and ask a very specific person a very specific question at a very specific, you know what I mean? But that's Bethesda design versus like Obsidian design. Bethesda one
I mean,
time
I guess it's fair.
with Morrowind said, "Hey, we're going to make it to where an important NPC could be killed and the game would still go on because in Morrowind you can kill an important NPC. It does have multiple ways you can get to towns and so on. There's at least 3 different ways that you can get to the first town in Morrowind. And if you kill any important NPC in Morrowind, the game will continue. You can do side quests, but the story is done. You cannot progress it anymore.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
yeah, and but at the same time, every Bethesda game since Morrowind has made it to where all important NPCs are unkillable. You can join every faction, and there's about one quest line in like Oblivion and Skyrim, for instance, where 2 of those factions have to go to war against each other, and it forces you to choose one of them, and both of them are completely unnecessary for the main narrative. Even though, especially in Skyrim, the Stormcloaks and Imperials should be one of the most important quests of the entire game, but it's actually completely
Mhm.
optional and is not required for the main story. But that's Bethesda. They have a very linear way of making games, and they do not design games around the ability to think outside the box in terms of how to complete a story. They do not account for you doing something different. Versus you go and you play Fallout New Vegas, you can kill every single person in the entirety of Fallout New Vegas, and there's still a fail-safe way to beat that game. And I mean everyone.
Oh, yeah.
And the
That's the
same
beauty of
goes
that game.
for the Outer Worlds and the Outer Worlds 2, Atomfall, Prey, and a lot of those games that just account for so many variables which add to this thing. And that's just the thing, is like people love Bethesda because of exploration and discovery and just a really cool world to be in. Not for choice and consequence or RPG mechanics in the sense of things like New Vegas or the Outer Worlds or whatever, or even an immersive sim. They're they're like the comfort food of RPGs. I feel like, and that's
Yeah, no,
okay.
it's I don't even mean to say this derogatorily, but like they're kind of like um fast food RPGs in that regard. But
Yeah, yeah,
I
they
like
are.
my description of power fantasy. It's like you can do whatever you
They
want.
are.
You're
Yeah.
fine.
I mean, they're easy
um
games. They're the fast food, comfort food. The bag of Doritos, the the Mountain Dew of RPGs, and that's okay. It's not
yeah.
a bad thing. But I think it really came to a head with Starfield, where people are like, "Well, Bethesda does this and this, and Starfield just doesn't do this." But I think the biggest complaint, really, for Starfield overall, from a Bethesda standpoint, is
Mhm.
it doesn't have a seamlessly explorable. If it would have had a seamlessly one single explorable world, it would have never been a problem. Or if it had 5 very large worlds or something like that, something that, for instance, the Outer
Yeah,
Worlds 2
they could
does
have
really
gotten away
well.
with like 10, I think.
Yeah, or something like that. They made them
Yeah.
as detailed and interesting as all their previous games, it would have never been an issue. The issue is that there's so much procedural generation, which is something they were always pushing towards progressively. But that's the issue, is all the procedural generation, the lack of handcrafted game and content, just the way that it was all put together. It's not inherently, I think it's a pretty decent game altogether, and I think it's in a lot of
Yeah.
ways more of an RPG than some of their previous games.
Oh,
As
no,
far,
I fully
yeah,
believe that. I
yeah,
genuinely like I can see maybe some arguments here and there against it being
yeah,
like a better RPG than what they've made before, but I do think that like at least the way that I played it, I was like I'm a scoundrel. I'm like I played it as Han Solo and I got to live out my
yeah.
fantasy being Han Solo for like at least 35 hours. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically like in my time playing, because I've only played it with Game Pass. My time playing it, I basically I'm like a Boba Fett bounty hunter, merc kind of character. I'm
Oh yeah.
very morally gray, which the morally gray can only get you so far because you can't kill anybody who's important. But
Mhm.
um, which I've run into so many issues because there's a stupid amount of people who are supposedly important in Starfield, and half the time it's just because now actually I think it's their most egregious use of this is that even unimportant side quests often have characters who can't die until after the quest has been completed. And I was like, what? Why? That's so stupid.
That's ridiculous.
But I've had multiple occasions where that was the case, and I'm like, this just doesn't make sense. Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you, like where I like Starfield when I played it. I think I was way more into it initially. I think the video that I made talking about it when it was like when I had just beaten it, I think I gave it like an 8, 8.5. I
Yeah.
think relatively now, I would probably say like it's one of the best sevens ever made.
That's a pretty good comparison. Yeah, I think that's accurate. But see, here's the thing: is I don't want to be stuck on Starfield for too long, but I think Starfield just still has a really cool universe, a really cool lore, and still does world building great. I know people like poke fun at its graphics or whatever. People do that all the time. Who cares about graphics? But I think overall the game looked and felt pretty well, and I mean at times it feels more alive than even some of Obsidian's recent games, including the Outer Worlds 2,
Mhm.
which I think is a better game than Starfield by far. But
Oh, by a huge
yeah,
margin.
but I do think at times Starfield does feel a lot more alive, especially within the handful of cities that exist. It feels more. And I still think they just do a really good job of making it feel interesting and seem interesting. And it's still a Bethesda game at the end of the day. And I think they do a good
Oh
job
yeah,
of
no,
that, but
100%.
they just it's just a little bloated. It became too much. Kind of like the Assassin's Creed Valhalla of Bethesda RPG.
I mean, I know what you mean. I wouldn't say it's that bloated, from what I understand
No,
about
it's not. It's
Valhalla.
not that bloated. But yeah, Valhalla is pretty bloated. And this is coming from someone who loves Assassin's Creed, and I loved everything about Valhalla except for the fact that its story sucks. Its voice acting sucks. I couldn't get over it, so I actually got rid of the game. I'd rather
Oh,
play
that's brutal.
Mirage all day long.
I don't think I've played an Assassin's Creed game since the first one, actually.
Wow. Well, there's a lot of good
I
ones.
played I played about like 5 hours of the first one
Yeah,
on a standard definition television, and
same.
I was like, "Nah, that's not that good," and then I never played another one.
Yeah, I mean, I played the original on like one of the very first like flat screen 32-inch TVs that there were, and the second one is 10 times like the first one's great. The second one's even better. Brotherhood and Revelation are great. 3 is great. Black Flag's awesome. Origins is really good actually. The first RPG, you know, AC game. I made an essay on it, and it's truly a special game. And then Odyssey was all right, I guess. Valhalla's okay. I mean, they're just both those games are just really bloated. Mirage like cut itself in half. Basically, was like a side project by a smaller team within Ubisoft. And they actually released a free DLC this year for the game, like a full blown, like 10-hour long DLC that was free.
Wait, when you say
And
this year, do you mean 2026 or do you mean
no, I
2025?
mean, like the end of 2025. It was like November or
Oh
something.
wow.
Yeah. DLC to Mirage, which was originally supposed to be an expansion to Valhalla. So it's still in Valhalla's engine, which kind of sucks. But it did parkour better, storytelling better. It made the game to where you could 100% the entirety of Mirage in 30 hours. So it made the
Oh my
story
god.
like maybe 12 hours. And it just got rid of the bloat. It brought social stealth back in a normal way where you're like hiding on benches, hiring people to hide you like the early games. And it did a lot of cool stuff. And the DLC being free is, I mean, it's awesome, especially how big of a DLC. They actually continue to update it and continued improving the parkour. And now it actually, from what I've seen, I haven't played it like recently, but from what I've seen, the recent update, like around the time of the DLC, made the parkour some of the best parkour in AC game in a long time. So that's cool to see at least. Hopefully that'll push them in the right direction because Shadows is not it.
That's what I've heard.
So
Ubisoft honestly as a company, not it. Let's be
yeah, that's
real.
true. Them and EA are right up there. Um, yeah. So let's push in a different RPG direction, maybe even a little bit of survival horror as well. The last time we spoke, Lies of P was new.
Yes.
Um, and so Lies of P Overture came out since then. When did that come out? Was that last year or the year before?
I think it was in June of last year. I think it was
Okay,
June or May. I think it was June.
because you connected, like our last discussion was deeply about Lies of P almost exclusively. And so how was Overture? I mean, how was that overall as a game? I mean,
Uh
expansion too. I think.
it's a fantastic expansion. I've not played it since beating it, and since
Okay.
beating it, they have patched it to be slightly more forgiving. So I have not seen or I've not played the game post patch, but
Okay.
it is unrelenting. My initial impressions were that it is an unrelentingly difficult expansion right from the get-go. I
Right.
was getting my ass handed to me for like 2 straight hours. Um, but once you kind of well, that was also partly probably because like I hadn't touched the base game for
For sure.
a
Yeah.
year or so. So I was like getting back into the groove of it, but like it was brutal to come back to, but it was incredibly rewarding, and it's got some of the best boss fights. In fact, it's got the best boss fight of the entire game, and like top 5 boss fights in all of Souls likes at the very end of it. The last boss fight in
Wow.
Overture is unreal how good that fight is. And this is coming from a guy that in the video on Liza P said they don't play the games for the boss fights. I would have played the expansion for the boss fight at the end of the Overture
Wow.
DLC. It's unreal how good that fight is.
I still haven't played Lies of P, so I haven't played Overture. Eventually, I probably will. But I mean, it's good to hear that it's really good, and that kind of brings me to something. You said that it was an unrelentingly difficult experience, but one that you were able to complete and beat, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that brings me to one of my least favorite conversations in gaming, and that is accessibility, right? So,
Okay.
um, but it's fun to talk about, even though it's just one of those things. There's like three things that people always talk about, and it's like the dollar per hour value for games, accessibility, and what was the other?
Graphics.
No, not graphics. Accessibility, dollar for game value, and I saw something. I don't know. It'll come back to me later. But that just brings me to they updated the game to make it more forgiving, or they updated the expansion to make it more forgiving. Do you think that was
Hmm.
necessary?
It's no, it's not necessary, but like I think if you have a problem with it, you can go kick rocks.
Oh man, that is the best answer that you could have possibly given. I love it because I've been well, I've been diving back into Sekiro, and I recently started playing Armored Core 6, and I'm kind of like jumping back and forth between the two. I love both games. I'm kind of addicted to Armored Core 6 right now because it's just stupid fun. But I saw something, I don't know if this is still accurate, but there was at one point where only like 22% of players made it past the final boss of Chapter 1 in Armored Core 6, for instance.
Mhm. I remember hearing about this.
Yeah, and I still think that the percentage of people who probably beat Sekiro or even made it past Genichiro or even made it past the Guardian Ape is probably pretty low. Because
Well, I
they're all
I
talked
I have
about so heavily as
I
difficult.
have a hot take about Sekiro, and that
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, I made a video on this actually, about a year, 2 years ago, I think at this point, where it is the worst 10 out of 10 ever made. Um,
Interesting.
Sekiro's Sekiro's tutorial is trash. It's unreal how bad that game gets you into its groove. It does almost everything wrong. Like unbelievably misguided,
So
poorly
we're just talking
made.
about like tutorialization of things.
I'm talking about like the first 5 hours where up until you fight Genichiro, it's awful. Not even necessarily the quality of the game itself, but the quality of the way that the game leads you into itself.
Hmm.
Like you have a game entirely designed around parrying and
Mm-hmm.
breaking poise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once you get past like the very very beginning initial tutorial, and then like you kind of like you wake up in the sculptor's house and then kind of go from
Yeah.
there. The game just like bombards you with things that like sometimes like lead you down the pathway of understanding its poise system and its parry system and like how all that functions, but at the same time they put you against um this gigantic boar that like is not like a traditional fight. It puts you against like the big flame guy. It's like a troll or something. I forget exactly what it is. It
So
puts you against like all of these things that
yeah.
don't teach you how the game works.
But
And then
see,
it
early
saves.
on,
Yeah, what's up?
the main two are what's his name? Gyobo, whatever, the dude on
Yobo
the
is also
horse,
terrible. Also a
and
terrible,
Lady Butterfly.
terrible. So here's the thing. Lady Butterfly is apparently mandatory, but
Yeah.
the way that you get to her is like some weird esoteric like travel back in time thing. And
Yeah.
for most people, myself included, you see that and you're like, "Oh, this has got to be down the line. I'll come back to this." Because like
Mm-hmm.
the entire way getting up to her is a nightmare. It's really difficult. So you think, "Oh, I'll come back here when I either get like a better like arm thing or when I'm better suited at the game." So you go back to the main pathway and then it doesn't tell you how to play the game correctly. If you were to hand me, I genuinely think that like Miyazaki was making Sekiro, realized that he made a game that wasn't as difficult as he thought it was, so he scrambled the first 5 hours into like a blender and said, "Okay, now I've made the game harder." It's
It's
like
interesting.
it's shocking how much I
Yeah.
dislike the first 5 hours of that game. But
That's,
then,
I mean,
but
that's
once
an
you get to
interesting
Genichiro,
take. Yeah.
it's the best game ever made.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting take. I mean, I so when I fought Gyobo and I fought Lady Butterfly, I would say getting to both of them is more challenging than actually fighting them because I beat both of them in like 2 or 3 tries. Because I used firecrackers on Gyobo, I just parried the hell out of Lady Butterfly, which is her weakness. All you got to do is parry her all day long, and that's it. That's, I
Well,
mean, that's
yeah,
and that's the whole point of her is to really test your parrying. Gyobo is more
yes,
about testing the like um more like the counter system and use of items and things like that. The real
yes.
test is after you get past Gyobo and you have to fight the chained ogre. That's the real test because the chained ogre took me like 10 plus tries because
Yes,
he's
exactly.
so
This is
unpredictably Dark Souls. He's so
this
unpredictably a Souls like a Souls boss, which is the same thing
yes.
with Guardian Ape. He's also like a Souls boss. That's why there's so much harder because you're like, yes, I can parry a lot of stuff, but then he's like grabbing me. Then he's just
So
flying across the screen and he's throwing stuff at me and like, what's happening right now?
so here's my issue with here's what I'm trying to get across specifically is that Lady Butterfly and Genichiro should
Yeah.
be the first two bosses in that game that you fight. Unmitigated. You fight, there's no time travel nonsense. There's the one path. You go down that path. You fight a bunch of common enemies. You fight like that big kind of mini boss like samurai guy, and then you fight Lady Butterfly. You go inside the tower. You fight Genichiro, and Genichiro, no, you go inside the tower. You fight the super fast attack guy that you have to like spam parry, and then you
Hmm.
fight Genichiro, because Genichiro, if you ask me, is the ultimate test of whether or not you've learned the
I agree.
core systems of the game. And then
I
once
agree.
you beat Genichiro, then you fight the Chain Ogre, then you fight the big weird bull thing, and then it starts teaching you extra
Yeah.
mechanics, extra systems. But the game, for some stupid reason, throws all of these extra things that are not the core systems of the game before the actual final test of, do you understand the core systems of the game? It's
Yeah, I'm not
unreal
sure
how bad how bad it
what it is
is.
with that choice. I mean, there are like probably 3 or 4 mini bosses before you ever fight the Chain Ogre, and you can actually
Yeah.
fight them all prior to Gyobo, I think. Um, and they're all testing you in a similar way as Genichiro. But all pretty much every mini boss is for the most part optional, and you don't necessarily have to interact with them. But see, you gotta think. So it also kind of, depending on the individual and how you experience the game is different. So like for me, for instance, I did like a stupid amount of exploration. Huge FromSoft Souls fan person, so I do a lot of exploring. And so I went from the beginning, and I fought like every mini boss before I ever even got to Gyobo or Butterfly. Fought like every mini
Mm,
boss and beat those bosses before I like. It's like I'm collecting Pokemon. Okay, I'm beating every mini boss before I go to the next like main boss.
sure.
And so I had so much practice fighting all these mini bosses, and then I went off and I literally explored as many places as I could possibly explore in the game, going the wrong direction without even knowing that I was going in the wrong direction for the longest time. And I
Mm.
recently picked back the game up, and I'm talking, I'm like 30 plus hours in the game at the time of picking it back up, and I had still not fought Genichiro. So I had completely, and I was right there the whole time. I was on his doorstep without even knowing it.
Yeah.
And so I had already been to Mibu Village. I had already been to a location extremely close to the Guardian Ape without getting past the serpent area that I couldn't access. I had already been in like 4 or 5 different places that all I had to do was fast travel to, and I just completed main mission objectives after fighting Genichiro. And then I basically skipped my way all the way to Owl because I already had these locations unlocked, and I just had to jump to them and do the stuff, and that was it. Um, so now I'm sitting at Owl fighting him, and
The owl fight. Both of
yeah,
them are some of the best fights in the game.
oh yes,
It's
so
yeah.
phenomenal. But it was funny. I was like, dang, I can't believe I was so close to all these things this whole time. But it saved me a lot of time of having to go through all this stuff again. But it was interesting because I had all this experience. So even when I jump back in, and I'm like, really, I was right here the whole time. I jumped back into the game after not playing it for like a couple years,
Mm.
and I go straight to fighting Genichiro basically. Um, and I'm fighting Genichiro. I'm getting my ass kicked, and then I mean, it probably took me like, I think it took me about 12 tries, and the 12th try I kicked his ass. I beat him, and it was one
12
of the best
only
feelings ever.
12?
Yeah, it was about
That's
12
great.
tries. Yeah,
Dude, I think
I I
my
promised
first fight
myself
with
that I
Guinea
was going to beat him before I went to bed, and I did. Uh,
I
I
think
was like, oh,
my first experience with Genichiro was like about like 30 to 40.
really?
But yeah, oh man, because I was just trying to like, when I was playing it, I was just kind of more or less going down the initial path.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
like
Well, you gotta think
think,
I had gotten more prayer beads and weapon like the
oh
the
yeah.
damage upgrades prior to that because I'd fought so many mini bosses and I'd been in so many other areas that I wasn't even supposed to be at yet.
Yeah.
I'm sure that
Genichiro
gave me a
though,
little bit of an edge, but not like a ton.
yeah, I don't know, but Genichiro, I think regardless, might be the best boss fight like FromSoft has ever made.
Yeah, I mean, if
It's
I didn't learn how
perfect.
to
I
parry,
literally
he would
have
have
no
kicked my ass
notes.
still.
Um all this coming back around to say that I do think Lies of P is a better game than Sekiro.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Well, when I fought the Guardian Ape, it took me probably 20 plus tries just because of the grabs. The grabs just
I
kept getting
forget how long it took me to beat the Guardian Ape.
like the grabs.
20 sounds about right.
Yeah.
He is a pain in the ass.
I mean, and after beating him, honestly, I think he's actually fundamentally an extremely simple and easy fight. 90% of his attacks, both first stage and second stage, are pretty slow, super choreographed, super easy to see what they're doing. His worst things are his grabs. If you don't avoid the grabs, you'll die within seconds.
Oh yeah. But
Because by the
he
time
the
I finally beat him, I had 0 healing left. I had probably a sliver of health, and I didn't use a revive. And I was out loud going like, "Fuck you, yes, finally, God," and it's just so satisfying to finally kick his ass. It was great.
he's a boss fight that doesn't necessarily like use the core fundamentals of the game that I think is
Yeah,
placed very properly. Like
yeah.
he's further down the line. Like after you
Oh
beat
yeah,
Genichiro, after you beat a couple more bosses, they're like, okay, let's throw this weird thing at you. Um,
yeah.
and yeah, he's a really fun boss fight. I think the coolest fight, it's got to be the big dragon. You feel you feel like a you feel like Goku fighting that fucking
Right.
thing.
Yeah, it's overall. I think it's just a great game in general. Yeah, I think I can understand what a lot of what you're saying about the early points in the game. Um, and I think that's actually that's I mean it is a hot take I guess from most, but it is something that I've heard before that it kind of does a poor job at explaining to you how to play the game by playing the game because you're going from like fighting these very simple enemies to kind of simple mini bosses to Lady Butterfly and Yobo and then Chained Ogre and then you're fighting whatever else and then Genichiro and it's just kind of weird and confusing. You're like, wait, how do I play this game? Because every single one of these play relatively different and it doesn't make any sense.
Yes. They they just have to like rearrange it so it's only parry focused fights
Yeah.
until Genichiro, and
Yeah, I
then
mean,
do
that
whatever
would
you
make
want
more
after
sense.
that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it would make sense because once you're up to that point, when you get to Genichiro after doing all that stuff, you're like,
You're
I
unstoppable.
Yeah, and I mean it's like I don't know but you're like I don't know what to do though because they're very different. But the game really just it works after Genichiro. It's like
Yes.
it just
Because
works right.
that's the skill test. That's the
Yeah,
skill check. It's like, do you understand how to play the game?
yeah, and it has a
Um,
beautiful rhythmic dance that I love. I mean, there's nothing that quite feels like that, and it's satisfying in a way that I think surpasses many of the other FromSoft games. Even
yes,
though
100%.
I mean, I don't know if how where I would rank it among all FromSoft games, but it definitely has a sense of just a satisfaction that some of the other ones don't have, a flair. But
Yeah,
in
I think my ranking of Sekiro, including Lies of P, is number 3. I think Bloodborne is still the best Souls-like,
okay,
and then Lies of P is like right behind it, and then Sekiro would be higher if it wasn't for those first like 4 or 5 hours,
that's fair.
but it's
That's
like
fair.
right there.
Yeah, and I started. Have you played Armor Core 6?
No, it's been on my to-do list for a
Okay,
while. I don't even own it, but like I would like to get around to it at some point. I have no experience with like basically any of the Armored Core games.
I also have no experience with any of them until now. Um, so I mean, I remember I saw the trailer for Armor Core 6. I had no interest. I saw a little bit on it. Didn't really have much of an interest. And I had some Christmas money, and I'm like, oh, I don't really know, like, I don't necessarily anything I want at the moment. So I was like, I'll get Armor Core 6. Screw it. I'll give it a shot. And like every FromSoft game, everybody's like, it's so hard. It's like the hardest thing FromSoft ever made. Blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, we'll see. And in playing, it's something very unique and different. Because like I said, I've never played any Armored Core. I played like Mech Assault Lone Wolf on Xbox. I played what was it called, Virtual On arcade, and I played a game called Counterforce on Wii. And that's like my mech experience there. The
Mhm.
last time I played a mech game was the Wii, so it's been a minute.
Damn.
Yeah, and so I get into this, and wow, it's just like it's a good looking game. It kind of feels like you're playing a 360 PS3 era experience at times. It's like mission based, and it's actually, I mean, apparently some people struggle with the tutorial boss, but I beat it the second try. And the only reason I died the first time is because I dodged out of the way of missiles into a building and got pelleted by the missiles and died.
It
Second
is
try,
refreshing knowing
defeated it.
it is refreshing knowing that From Software can make a game that isn't a Souls-like while
Yeah.
still retaining the lessons they've learned from those games. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
for sure. Yeah, yeah. And
Um,
it's, I mean, like I said, it's really good. And like, it's pretty easy up until you fight the first real boss, I guess, which is like well, okay, I guess yeah, well, you basically fight two bosses back to back at the end of, like, the very last level of chapter one.
mm.
And the first one is pretty difficult. Then it leads into one that's about 10 times more difficult than that.
Do you have to fight them both? Do you have to fight both of them if you die again, or is it like you beat the first one and then the game saves, and then whenever you fight the second one, you just fight the second one again after you die?
Yeah,
Or
after
do
you die at
you
checkpoints right before the last fight.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fine then.
Yeah, they actually have a lot of like there's a checkpoint before every boss fight in the game, and usually about a some missions are pretty short and some missions are longer. The longer missions usually have a checkpoint like halfway or something. Um but yeah, so it took me a while. I mean, it probably took me, I want to say 12 plus tries or something, and I kept getting so close. I even have a clip on my phone of a point where me and this boss are fighting and we killed each other at the exact same time.
Oh man, been
It
there
does
many
this
times.
thing where it goes into slow motion when you defeat the boss. And I was shooting at the boss, and then they did a melee attack, this like flaming sword thing that they come at you with. I dodged the first one, got hit directly by the second slash, and I go flying, and you see me exploding. And then as the game starts to fade in the background, you see the boss drop and explode. And I'm like, no, no, no.
That is
But
rough.
it was crazy because like I was like, oh, so close, so close, so close. He's almost dead. And then that happened, and I was like, oh my. And it was another. It was just like Ganitro, where, and actually Guardian 8 both. I was like, I'm not going to bed till I beat this boss. And
Mm.
a little, several tries later, and I beat it, and it was so satisfying. And I fought one more boss since then. Took me a couple tries. It wasn't as difficult. Yeah, overall, I don't think it's as difficult as a lot of FromSoft games. Like overall, once you figure out how it kind of functions and how it works, there's a lot more customization than something like Sekiro. There's a lot more combinations of weapons and play styles, kind of like a Dark Souls. So there's a lot more freedom, I guess, when it comes to that. So, I mean, I guess it can be more challenging for some. It just depends on how long it takes you to acclimate to the mech gameplay, I guess.
I'm just out here hoping that From Software finally makes another survival horror game again. Kuon's great. I want another one. Give me another survival horror game. From
I've
Soft, I
actually
beg
not
of
heard
you.
of that game.
You've never heard of Kuon? What?
No, no,
Oh
no.
my
I mean, I know all
god.
about like Kingsfield and Dark Tower and those kind of things, but no, I've never heard of Kuon.
Oh, it's a PS2 game. It's you
Okay.
can very easily get it without paying for it. It's really really good. It's not amazing,
Yeah,
but it's really good. Um it's you play like several characters. I think it's been several years since I played it, but I think it takes place over like maybe a couple hundred years, or like over the course of like it takes place over the course of some amount of time, and you
okay.
play like different chapters with different characters and stuff. It's really really solid. And From Software, I've been saying for years, like ever since like I think Demon Souls on the
Yeah.
PS3, I was like, these guys need to make a horror game. And lo and behold, they did already, but I didn't know about that. But they need to do it
Yeah.
again. It would
Well,
be
so
fantastic.
I mean, given that they've returned to Armored Core, they've done stuff like Elden Ring and Sekiro, and they continued with Dark Souls. I think that there's a chance eventually they might make another survival horror game, and maybe they'll make another Kingsfield. I feel like there's a lot of people who would like to see that too.
Um,
Um,
it would be interesting. I don't know if it really has a time, like if it really has like a purpose, honestly, because like why make a Kingsfield game when you could just make Dark Souls? You know
yeah,
what
I
I
mean it's
mean?
kind of like first person Dark Souls in a way. I mean, at least the indies got us covered with something like Lunacid. I don't know if you've heard of or played that, but
Oh,
it's really good.
Lunacy is fantastic.
Yeah,
Big
it's really
fan.
good. Um,
Um,
so with that, that brings us into survival horror stuff. Something else I wanted to touch on. So Silent Hill 2 remake. What are your thoughts on that? See, I
yeah.
was we have spoke on Discord and stuff since the last conversation here. And I was part of your stream back when they I think announced Silent Hill 2 remake or something like that.
Sounds
So
about right. Yeah.
now that it's out and about and it's been out for a minute and I know you've played it, what is it that you think overall about Silent Hill 2 remake? You think that it's an improvement over the original? Do you think that
Uh,
it's just as good? I mean, just your overall thoughts on Silent Hill 2 remake. I have yet to play
it's,
it because I don't have a PS5 and I just haven't played it on PC yet.
it is. Is it on Game Pass now? Because I know Microsoft got it.
Wait, it's on Xbox?
Yeah, no, you can play it on Xbox now, but I don't know if it's on Game
Oh,
Pass. Yeah, it came out like on Xbox, I think in November, maybe October of last year. I can't remember. Um, I don't know if it's on Game Pass though. I genuinely don't know. But
well, I
it's
really want to play it because I did not know that it was on Xbox. I'd rather play it on my Xbox than my PC. So,
that's fair. It's complicated. I
oh,
think
that's
in
cool as hell. Okay, it is. That's okay. Well, thank you for telling me that because I did not know that. I'll have to
yeah, of
look
course.
into getting that soon. I want to play
Is
it.
it on Game Pass or no?
Let's see.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, let me look. It does not look like it is. No,
Okay.
I don't think
Um,
it's on Game Pass. No, it doesn't look like it is.
um, my feelings on that game are very complicated. The biggest complication I have towards it is that it made a game that I play exclusively for the sentimental and emotional attachment I have to it.
That's fair.
Silent Hill 2, the original game is in the category of art that I don't go out of my way to play or experience very often for fear
Yeah,
of losing its spark. You know what I
that's fair.
mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But Silent Hill 2 remake made the game really fun, and I don't know how to feel about that. Like, because that makes me want to play it again, and but it's like, no, I can't. It's Silent Hill 2.
Right.
I can't like actually enjoy it. You know what I mean? Um,
You gotta separate the old from the new.
but like
I get it though.
I think as a remake, it's almost literally as good as it possibly could have been. Um, there are aspects about the original game that I prefer. There are things that the remake did that I think are better.
Yeah,
I do think that like while no remake is ever a full-on substitute,
yeah.
no, a full-on replacement. That's what I meant to say. No remake is ever a replacement for the original. I do think
Mm,
that Silent Hill 2 acts as a perfect substitute for it. Um,
okay.
I am of the opinion that Silent Hill 2 lives and dies on its narrative. And and in that regard, the remake did a basically perfect job as far as I'm concerned. So
Yeah,
I personally think that like if you only ever play the remake, you still got to experience Silent Hill 2 for the
yeah.
reason that for the reason everybody praises it
That's
for. You
kind
know
of
what
how
I
I
mean?
feel about the Resident Evil 2 remake.
No,
Similar reasons.
I I think less so in that regard, but
Yeah,
still yes,
yeah,
relatively. Um, but like I think my I think the more interesting conversation is about F. Um,
yeah,
because
yeah.
I I I think that F does a lot right. It also does
Yeah,
a lot. I don't even want to say wrong, but like a lot
yeah.
of it is misguided. I think.
I want to ask you. Well, I definitely want to dive into Silent Hill F, but I was going to ask you, what you thought about the Silent Hill 1 remake before we discuss Silent Hill
Oh,
F.
um,
That
I mean,
announcement.
as much as I do think that Bloober nailed the remake of 2. I've
Yeah,
said since they announced the remake of 2 that they should have just done the first one in the first place, because I think that the
that's
original
fair.
game is much more deserving of a remake because I hold a relatively unpopular opinion that Silent Hill 1 is the worst of the original 4 games, and
Okay.
most of that comes down exclusively to its hardware limitations. Um, I think I think Silent Hill 1 dared to be very visceral and very intense, and for the time, I do think it was, but
Yeah.
I can't play Silent Hill 1 without just thinking it's quaint and cute. You know what I mean?
Right.
Uh, I mean, it's
It is
still
pretty
like
mild in comparison to two. It just overall as a
well,
game.
yeah, I mean, like, and that's not even like taking into consideration like how heavy 2 is just
Yeah, yeah,
narratively. I think like in terms of Silent Hill 1 attempting or like being visceral and being intense and being very like outright unsettling, none of
right,
those things translate through time with its technical limitations.
right.
So I think that like a remake of 1 makes the most sense because you can be as visceral and intense as you want to
Yeah,
now while still like well, I mean, with the technology of today, like I think you can only exemplify everything that the first game was like trying to do
for sure.
better. Um,
As long as
so
they
I'm
do
very excited.
focus on that, yeah, I think so. Because
Yeah,
like most of what made Silent Hill, and that goes mostly for the first one, but definitely the second one. A lot of it came from just technical limitations, and some of the greatest games and greatest mechanics and elements of things come from limitations. I mean, that's the whole point.
yeah,
That's the only reason the fog is there is because of limitations.
yeah. Which is
And
weird because
yeah,
the remake of two, I don't know if you know this, the fog is not a, it's not like a barrier for like a loading thing. It like the whole town renders with or without the fog. So
huh?
like it's interesting that they even did it. That's just like a fun fact, I guess. Like Silent Hill 2 renders everything regardless of the fog or not, but Silent Hill
Yeah.
1 and all of the original games, yeah, the fog was there as a technical limitation, so you could make the game more
Are you
detailed
saying
without
that
loading nearly as much as possible.
the original Silent Hill 2 renders everything, or the remake?
The remake does.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess you would just have the fog because it's part of the atmosphere. I guess it
Oh yeah,
wouldn't make
yeah,
a
yeah. No,
difference.
I'm not. Yeah, no, 100%. I just find it funny that like the fog in the remake especially could have been used as a way to like really save on like power and
Oh, okay, I
rendering,
see what you're saying.
you
Yeah, but
know,
they
but they
didn't do
just
that.
didn't
Yeah.
but they didn't do that for some reason.
Okay, okay. Huh. Yeah, I mean that's a good point. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I mean I'm excited to see what comes of the Silent Hill 1 remake. I'm just excited to see Silent Hill being talked about and back into the mainstream consciousness and just, which does bring us to Silent Hill F. Probably one of the most controversial Silent Hill games in some time. Seemingly beloved by many, but also maybe a bit hated by others. And it kind of is one of the most simultaneously interesting and unique Silent Hill games ever, but also one, I don't know, just one that just seems to bring a lot of division, fan base and players, critics as a whole. It looks interesting to me personally. It doesn't have a lot of, there's not a lot of about it that interests me, and there's a lot of things that I've seen game design wise that I don't really gel with. But what is it? So what do you think is so divisive about Silent Hill F? What do you think is good about Silent Hill F? Yeah.
Um, well, my overall thoughts on F are it's okay. It's fine.
Okay.
It's like I think 6.5 out of 10, not quite a 7, maybe a 7.
Yeah.
Um, I think narratively it's the best game since 2. Um,
Okay. Like in
uh,
general, we're talking like since the original two all the way up to this point.
yeah, yeah. I mean, narrative speaking specifically, I'm not recounting the remake because it's just the original game again. Um,
Silent Hill F is better than Silent Hill 4 The Room?
narratively, yes.
Okay, that's cool. I
Um,
like The Room. It holds a special
oh, I
place
love
for
the
me for
room.
some reason, but
It's probably my second favorite Silent Hill game.
so good.
Um,
I never did
I
beat it
understand.
actually, but I need to.
Oh, you gotta do that.
It's because my
It's
original Xbox died, and
no.
when I played it backwards, because I was going to continue playing it, so I had to restart, and I was playing it backwards compatible on my 360, and it was one of those games that was poorly optimized for backwards compatibility, so there was a lot of screen tearing and texture tearing,
Oh,
and it
brutal.
looked more
Well,
horrifying than it was supposed to, and it was just
if
hard
I
to like
may,
take it seriously. Yeah,
go on a brief tangent.
by all means,
Silent
go
Hill
for it.
4 it Silent Hill 4 is on GOG. Become GOG pilled as I have. GOG
I
is
do
the
have GOG or GOG or whatever you want to call it.
well, I'm vouching that it becomes your main storefront.
Okay.
GOG is the best. It's DRM free. You buy it. I can literally I bought Silent Hill 4 on GOG because it's on GOG.
Yeah.
If you want to, I can literally just email you the game and you can just play it because it's DRM free.
Oh
Amazing.
wow.
Second, it's its preservation program means that a lot of old games, like New Vegas, for instance, that run like shit on a lot of more updated PCs and stuff,
Yeah.
it just works out of the box. Cold
Okay.
Fear just got a preservation thing on it.
I
That
saw
game
that. Yeah.
barely functions on Steam. On GOG, you can play the whole thing back to front, literally no issues, just by booting the EXE. Third
Wow.
thing, third thing, you can very easily roll back any game to like 1.0. It's not even hard. GOG is the
Wow.
superior storefront. Become GOG pilled. Um,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I
um,
actually really.
but
I mean, I have it, but I don't even think I own a single game on it. But I do have
make that make that your New
it.
Year's resolution.
Okay, I want to get Silent Hill
Become
4:
GOG
The
pilled.
Room on GOG, and I want to make it my main thing. No, I do
Um,
need to play through it because it's a game that I found to be extremely interesting. So it was not my first Silent Hill game, but it was well, actually, no, actually, it may have been. Was it?
uh, but
I can't
but
remember actually. It might have been my first Silent Hill game, and I just kind of had it. I played it a little bit, and then I didn't really get fully into Silent Hill until Downpour, and that actually kind of pushed me in a direction to play more survival horror games because
oh,
I
that's
loved horror,
interesting.
but survival horror or just like horror games in general, the video game medium just kind of scared the shit out of me, to put it lightly. And even though I loved horror movies, it was like a whole different thing. And like my dad had bought me Dead Space back in like 2008 or whatever,
Hmm.
and it scared the hell out of me. I could never play it. And a Doom 3 scared the shit out of me when I was a kid on original Xbox. Um, and all I had was a demo for it, and I think I rented Resurrection of Evil, and it scared the hell out of me. And so I was just kind of scarred from horror games, and it was Downpour that
Resurrection of
got me
Evil.
past that and made me fall in love with this like mysterious town and so on. Then I went back and played. I played. I didn't play two. I've never played two. I played one. Was it one? Yeah, I played a little bit of one. I never beat it. Played three, and I played. Uh, I played and beat Downpour, Homecoming, and I played a good portion of Silent Hill 4.
Oh man, you've only beaten the US ones? That's so
Yeah,
wild.
yeah,
You should fix that like as soon as
I should.
possible. I mean, and this is coming from a guy that doesn't even like hate Homecoming. I think Downpour is kind of bad, but I love Tom Hewlett. He's a wholesome gentleman. He's really
Yeah,
nice, really sweet. I've actually talked to Tom Hewlett I think twice. Great guy. Don't like Downpour at all. But
yeah.
Homecoming pretty all right. Um
Like I said, Downpour was kind of pivotal for me fully getting into horror games, and I jumped into Evil Within like just a year or so after I'd beaten Downpour, and that Evil Within was like the match that struck and made me just go like full in to like horror games in
hmm.
general. Um, I mean, I played like Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 4 prior to that, and I think I played Resident Evil 1 and 2 when I was like very, very young on PS1 with my uncle.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, but I didn't really count Resident Evil 4 and 5 as horror games.
Um But getting back to F, I think my biggest problem with F is that like narratively it's fine. No, not no no.
Yeah.
Narratively it's good. I want to make
Yeah,
that
yeah.
clear. I really like the story. I
Okay.
think that the themes it tackles are very interesting. The way that sexism is portrayed in Japanese culture
Mhm.
is like really interesting, and like I think it does a lot of what 3 wanted to do
Right.
In that regard, because I think three's biggest problem is that it kind of wish-washes between like being a story about like growing up as a woman and like the pressures in society of like having a kid and like all this stuff where like
Yeah.
Heather is like forced to like give birth to a god. And like there's like that really interesting kind of like angle that it does take sometimes, but then there's also this stupid cult story that just keeps like it becomes like a
Mm.
feminine version of Silent Hill 2 and then also a really lame cult like story. And it's like just pick a lane, dude. You could have like Silent Hill 3 I think could have been way more interesting if it had just decided between one or the other. But Silent Hill F, my biggest issue with it is it comes down to two things I think where
Hmm.
it's maybe two and a half. Its narrative is hindered by the way it tells it, because I'm sure you're aware you have to beat the game multiple times. Um,
Yeah, I heard that.
it uh like it the biggest thing about having to beat that game multiple times is that the best experience that you will get with F is the second time you play it, because the first time there's a lot of things that like I think F does that are interesting with the way it tells its
Uh,
story. But like it also suffers with like super like in my opinion really poorly straightforward linear level design in a game that
okay.
is trying to not be linear.
Right.
Um and then like um, I even like its combat. Like its combat loop, specifically in a vacuum, I think is the best combat that any survival horror game has literally ever made. Um,
Oh.
but the game ends the later half of the game is just all about combat, and I really don't want a Silent Hill game ever being about combat. I even talk about this in my video on it. I'm like, if you are ever saying that this shit goes hard in a Silent Hill game, you did something wrong. And there are multiple points where like I can see people playing it and being like and like pog facing, like, "Whoa, this is so cool." It's like, no, that should never happen.
I've
Um,
heard that the combat feels like it's souls and.
it's I would say it's inspired by it. I've
Uh-huh.
heard that they deny like the studio denies it being like a Souls like, and I don't think it
That's
necessarily
fair. Yeah.
is.
It doesn't seem
It's
like it
I don't
is
think
though. Yeah.
it's not necessarily, but like there's no denying that there's like connections that you could make.
Yeah.
Um, and
I
but
mean,
I'm
yeah,
of
but
the
you can take
opinion,
from that. You can take from that wheelhouse and not necessarily be that at the same time. I feel.
yeah, no,
There's
exactly.
several
I
games that are
think
inspired now by Souls, especially
oh,
combat design, that aren't
it's
really
impossible
Souls
to
like. Yeah.
yeah, it's impossible to avoid it as an influence
Yeah.
at this point, I think. And I think that's fine because I think that like Souls-like combat actually benefits the survival horror genre incredibly well, because
Yeah.
like when you play like Dark Souls, when you play Dark Souls for like the first time, do you know how much anxiety? Do you realize how much anxiety you had playing that game? There was a
Oh, I
lot
do.
of it.
Yeah.
And all of it was because the game was hard and you were trying not to die. Well, guess what? Survival horror as a genre, the horror mainly comes mechanically from trying not to die. I think
Oh,
like
yeah.
it
Certainly.
works incredibly well. It synchronizes incredibly well, and I think that like while it makes combat more enjoyable inherently, I don't think that is inherently a bad thing. Um,
Right.
I really do think that F's combat is perfect, like almost perfect. My biggest problem with it is that it just relies on it way too much at the end of the game. But
Yeah.
um, but F does this thing where you have to beat it multiple times, and like the 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 first time you play through it, its narrative is hindered by all these kind of like the like weird well not its narrative, but the first time is hindered by like I was saying like really un in uninteresting level design decisions. And it does the egregious thing that I think no Silent Hill should ever do, which is have notes that relate directly to the character and are explicitly like, oh, this is a letter from my mom, or oh my god, that's my dad, or like, oh my god, that's my best friend. And when it's
Yeah.
when you could literally just so easily just not have the character say that and
Oh,
have
they
it be
say that.
ambiguous. They literally say it. You could just have them not say it, and it would be immediately become ambiguous. In my opinion, way more interesting.
That
Um,
sounds like a good bit of the modern day hand holding seeping in. You know, it's like, I got to comment about everything. There got to be yellow paint on the wall. How are you going to know where to go if I don't tell you where to go? How are you going to understand this note if I don't tell you who it's from and where it's from in the context of how it was written and why it was written
yeah.
and who to? And man, that just sparks a whole thing of like I just hate a lot of game design nowadays of just it's so handholdy and over explained. Give me a good mystery. And that's all I need.
And in the game's defense, the core narrative itself
Mm,
is what you want a Silent Hill game to be.
okay.
Um, there's they do really interesting things with with time and um the like you literally won't really kind of get a grasp of what's going on until at least the second time you beat it, which in my opinion makes the second playthrough of F the most interesting because right before you even get control of the game, you get new things like immediately. Um like the second playthrough shortens the game like a little bit, just enough to make it more interesting. But like you still have to play basically the entire game front to back um at least 3 times, and by the third time you're just in my opinion I was getting sick of it. um it's good though, but only
All right,
barely.
okay. I feel like that's gonna to me, someone I mean, I already have not that much interest in it because of some of those modern design concepts because of a lot. But the fact that I would have to beat it twice, kind of crazy.
You have to beat it at least 3 times to get like the real ending.
What? That I hate that. I mean, I just thinking about that, I hate that. Um, I mean, it's
I
kind
think
of like,
your mileage really varies on depending on
yeah,
how well you vibe with it, but like
okay,
for me, I was the first playthrough I wasn't super vibing with it. Second playthrough I was really vibing with it, and then the third playthrough I was back to being like, "Ugh, okay, again."
right, yeah, that's kind of crazy. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, it's kind of like when I, for instance, Hades, one beat, one time beating that game, and I'm pretty much done. I mean, but you have to beat that game 10 times to get the actual ending, which is crazy.
No, no, thank you. I'll pass.
That's yeah, that's nine too many times. You know, I think yeah, I mean, but I think having to beat a survival horror game 3 times in a row is also very appealing in general. I don't see that like faring well for most people going into it. If you, I mean, I'm sure most people are just gonna beat it one time and then go on with their lives, but for some people, it's gonna be like, really, I gotta beat this several times to get like the real ending to the game. That's kind of
Yeah, it's a tall ask for a lot of people.
yeah. But I mean, if
I
you really
mean,
like the game or you're really interested in it, then obviously you're probably gonna do that. If you're gonna be sinking most of your time into that game and not much else, I mean, I guess as
yeah, how
far as there's
much
not many other games, then
what is my playtime on F? Let me see. Hold on. So I beat it just the 3 times. Uh, 36 hours, 3 full playthroughs.
that's a lot for a survival horror game. Like that's a
Yeah.
lot. That's way more than any average survival.
Yeah, I think my first run through of Silent Hill 2 remake was I want to say like 18, which
Okay,
is
that's
still long for a survival
yeah, that's
horror
still
game,
pretty
but
long. Yeah.
like um
I say like I damn near 100%ed like Resident Evil 2, 7, and 8, and each of them was like 12 hours or something.
yeah, that's
It's like doing everything, and they're just very short.
survival horror is famously not a genre that like really thrives on longer experiences.
Yeah,
Um
which I mean I can get that, but.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah, it's
100%.
kind
I
of
mean,
wild.
there's only so many times that you can kind of like be dragged upon like a jump scare thing, or like how there's only so long how well you can be absorbed by a game's atmosphere, what that relies on it so much to like scare you.
For sure. So before we end up kind of wrapping anything up, I want to jump in briefly to Elden Ring. I don't know if we ever got around to talking about Elden Ring, but think we probably have at some point. But more so, what's up with Elden Ring Night Rain? I seen that you made a video on that. What are your overall thoughts on Night Rain and I guess I don't know, state of From Software and Elden Ring at the moment?
I think that Night Rain, if you play with friends, it's probably my favorite From Software game. I'm not even kidding. Um, it's really, 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 really fun if you're just, coordinating with
Yeah.
people directly, being like, okay, let's go here, let's go that,
Huh.
let's go
Okay.
here, here, and here, and you have that like game plan set up 4 steps in advance. That is
Right.
really, really, really fun. Um, I've never played it with randos. I don't want to play it
Yeah.
with randos, but people tell me that playing it with randos is still like an exhilarating experience.
Right.
Um, but like I put, or actually, here, hold on, let me see how long do I have in Night Rain? Um, I think, let's see, I have 60 hours in Night Rain.
Oh, okay.
And those 60 hours were probably, at least 50 of those 60 hours were in the first like month. Um,
So does Night Rain have a story? Does it have like any kind of progression like that, or is it just like a boss rush kind
well,
of?
no From Software game has a story.
Well,
It has
yeah, but you know what I
lore.
mean.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. It's actually funny I say that, but like I think Night Rain, more than any of the more like Souls-like games that they've made, probably has like the most straightforward story apart from like Sekiro.
Okay.
Um, like there's a clear progression between like all
Yeah.
of the different characters that you can pick. They all have like their own narrative that you progress as you do like very specific like side quest things as you go like through each run and everything.
Okay.
In that regard, it's the most interesting story game that they've made since Sekiro for sure.
Hmm.
It's basically Elden Ring condensed into a roguelike with arcade as hell and elements. It's
Interesting.
fantastic.
It
Um,
seems interesting. I'm gonna have to get into it eventually. So,
it's really, really good.
are there any games that you're really looking forward to in 2026?
Oh man, let me gush about a little game called Clam Man 2. Do you
Clam
ever play
Man?
Disco? Do you ever play Disco Elysium?
Yeah.
Do you ever beat Disco Elysium and say, "Man, that game will left a hole in me that I will never fill"?
Uh-huh.
Clan Man 2 is not going to be that game, but it's going to be the closest that you're going to feel to playing a Disco Elysium like until you play Red Info's game, whenever the hell that comes out. Clan Man 2 is Disco Elysium, but you play a clam guy underwater learning how to become a stand-up comedian. It is
What?
incredibly funny. It is dense with character building. It is fucking fantastic. You can play like a hour and a half long demo right now on
I'm looking
Steam.
at it. That's yeah, it looks really interesting.
It's unreal how good it is. I beat it once about like a week ago after
Yeah.
beating Disco Elysium a couple months ago, which by the way, Disco Elysium fully converted me into an RPG guy. I
Yeah.
love RPGs now wholeheartedly.
I
Not
mean,
to
they're
say I
great.
didn't like them before. Not to say I didn't like them before, but god damn, I love RPGs now. All I've done since beating Disco Elysium is played RPGs. That's literally all I've done
That
ever
is kind
since.
of ccrazy, yeah. I mean, if you're yeah, I mean, maybe that'll send you down the rabbit hole of getting into some pretty crazy stuff uh was it Torment Tides of Numenera or Planescape
I, I
Torment,
I
that kind of
have
stuff.
Planescape Torment.
Okay.
The thing about Disco Elysium is that like, man, it's really nice having that game read to you. And
Oh yeah, yeah,
Planescape
yeah.
Torment, you gotta read all of it, and it's
Yeah,
a that's a
Planescape
that
Torment and Torment Tides of Numenera are both games with a extremely heavy amount of reading. Torment Tides of Numenera actually has a little bit of voice dialogue, but not very much.
but Clan Man 2, like no kidding, top 5 most anticipated games of 2026 if it comes out at all. this year
So
because it's literally one person making it.
okay,
Um, they've been working on it, I think, for like 5 years.
okay,
Um,
hmm,
but it is fantastic. It's genuinely funny. Like I beat it a couple weeks ago by myself, and then I was playing it
yeah.
last night with a friend of mine, and we were both just like in hysterics, like multiple times. It's so funny. Um,
It seems like we're getting more and more kind of Disco Elysium likes, I guess you could say. Like recently, Rue Valley came out, which has kind of been controversial, I guess, for some
yeah,
reason.
it's been kind of midly received, I would say.
Yeah, it's.
Uh,
I mean, it's not. I don't think it's. I mean, it is an. It's like a narrative RPG kind of thing, like Disco Elysium, but it's a bit more linear, I think, and it's more like you're trapped in a time loop and you're kind of like doing things day by day, but you have like a big locate, like a town to explore, and I think you might be time limited or something. I haven't played it, but it looks. I mean, it seems interesting. I like that kind of like. I don't know if you ever played the Forgotten City, but the
no, I
premise
never
kind of
did, but
reminded me of that, where you have a limited amount of time until a specific thing happens to do a bunch of stuff and kind of piece together the mystery and take the stuff that you figured out during that time to do it again the next time and next time until you unravel the whole thing and figure it all out how to beat it.
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I really like that game. That was a good one. Anything else that you're looking
Uh,
forward to in 2026?
yeah, I have a list. Hold on, I'll just blast through like 10 games I'm super psyched for. Um, Incoherence Dark Rooms is a game that is basically Blueprints but Resident Evil.
Okay, that sounds
Uh,
good.
yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Um, Warhammer Mechanicus 2,
Okay,
fantastic. Loved the first one. Very excited for that. It's basically XCOM but Warhammer, although it's not
okay,
just like XCOM. There's a lot of unique things that it does.
right.
Valor Mortis is a first person Souls like by the people that did Ghost
Oh,
Runner.
oh, I think I saw the trailer for that. Valor Mortis. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a playtest still. It doesn't
Yeah,
look like it. I
it
played.
looks good.
They had a play test a couple months ago. It's incredible. I felt the same way after beating the playtest for Valor Mortis as I did after beating the demo for Liza P. It was like this is
Okay.
gonna be the shit. Um, Phase Zero is a incredibly faithful recreation of a classic Resident Evil game. I know that those are kind of like a dime a dozen nowadays, but very few
Right.
feel as authentic as Phase Zero does. Um, the new Onimusha game looks sick. There's an indie
It
game
does
called
look good.
Tower of Tears that is like
Okay.
a dreamlike Metroidvania survival horror game that looks amazing.
Oh,
Um, Bubsy 4D looks amazing. I actually am
yeah.
psyched for a Bubsy game. I can't believe it. There's a boomer shooter coming out called Closton, spelled with a K, that is
Yes, 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 yes.
basically if someone said, "What if Half-Life but Quake 2?" It's
Mm-hmm.
incredible. Um, Slay the Spire 2. Um, what's hold on, there's one more. Oh, Pragmata, the other Capcom game that's coming out.
Yeah.
Uh, that is probably top five. I beat the demo like 9 times. It's unreal how much fun it is.
Wow. Okay.
I
Yeah.
can't
That's a
wait. I can't wait. There's so many games coming out this year that I'm excited for, but those are
yeah.
probably the hypest.
Yeah. I mean, there's a handful that I'm looking forward to as well. Like, there's a new finally a new Starship Troopers single player boomer shooter game developed by the same people that made Bolt Gun that also has co-op that's supposed to be releasing Q1 this year. I'm actually pretty pumped for that.
What's that one called?
It's let's see what Starship Troopers Ultimate Bug War.
Uh, Ultimate Bug War. There it is. Let me see. Ooh,
Yeah, it looks cool.
yeah, this looks sick. I'm down.
And yeah, I was like, yes, a single player, like because all the other ones are like multiplayer strategy or VR or whatever. I'm also looking forward to Reanimal, from the Little Nightmares developers, Tarsier,
Oh yeah.
and I think Highland Life 2 looks like a lot of fun. First person skateboarding and just mayhem. It looks like a lot. It just looks like a blast.
I actually know somebody working on that game. They are
Really?
very hyped on it.
Oh, I
Yeah.
bet. Yeah, it looks great. It comes out next month actually. There's about like
Oh my
6
god, it
games coming
does.
out next month. Dude, there's so many games coming out next month.
Oh my goodness.
Resident Evil 9 comes out next month.
Oh my god.
Reanimal comes out next month. High on Life 2 comes out next month.
I can't believe
Yeah.
we've made it this entire time without me shit talking Resident Evil Requiem. I think that game looks fucking terrible.
It
I
does
I
look
I am
odd.
I am but I will likely not buy it. I cannot believe how much my hype has been deflated for that game.
Really.
It looks so bad. I don't understand. What am I missing? It looks like can I quickly go on a very micro
Go
rant?
for it. Go for it.
Resident Evil 6 comes out. Everyone is like, they lost the plot. Capcom sits down, they have a hard conversation with themselves, and they say, what can we do to make Resident Evil good again? Oh, let's take it back to its roots. Let's make it survival horror as hell.
Hmm.
And while I have a lot of issues with some of the things they did with it, they succeeded. And then they proceed to make Resident Evil Village, and they're like, what if we took all of the things that we could have learned from Resident Evil 7 and kick those into the fucking dirt and make just a weird linear carnival ride? Like, what? Okay,
Right.
okay, let's no more survival horror, I guess. And then it took 2 games for them to be like, let's do Resident Evil 6 again. That'll work. Like, what are we doing here? I can't believe that people are excited for Requiem. It looks so bad. Okay, that's it. That's my micro rant.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not really excited for Resident Evil 9. It doesn't look great. I mean, I loved RE8. I loved 7. I like the remakes. 3 was just what it was. But yeah, 9 doesn't look that great. I mean, I hated the DLC for Resident Evil 8, the one that focused around whatever her name is. I didn't really
Oh, I
care for
never
that at
played
all.
that.
Yeah, it sucks. I wouldn't play it. I don't suggest it. I didn't like it at all. But there's another game that I'm excited for that's coming out soon, February as well, along with the rest of these games. Like there's the new Sticks games coming out in February. Like there's so many games that are coming out in February. I don't even know how this many games is coming out in February. But Neo 3 is also coming out in February. But
Oh my goodness.
yeah, the new Civ game is coming out in February.
What? I thought it already
Yeah,
came out.
I don't think so.
Civ 7?
Oh, maybe it is. Oh, it's the Mac and iOS version.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but there's a lot of stuff coming out. But another one that's coming out in February that I'm excited for is Romeo's a Dead Man, the new Suda 51 game.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Man, I really do need to get around to playing that at
I've
some
only
point.
I've only played one Suda 51 game. I've only ever played Shadows of the Damned, and that's the only thing of his that I've ever played. And that's like a huge
Oh,
history of like a just absolutely messed up development. A lot of craziness happened with that game. It was kind of basically the Evil Within originally before it actually was completed, and then it didn't quite become that. There's a lot of parallels actually between that and Evil Within if you ever sit and actually compare them. Um, but I actually beat the game for the first time last year, and then I bought the remaster after beating the original.
oh
Um,
nice.
but Romeo's Dead Man looks cool. It's like part hack and slash, kind of like Lollipop Chainsaw with like the gunplay of Shadows of the Damned. And it just looks like a weird, wacky, fun time. I'm kind of excited for it. Like I said, I've
Yeah,
only
it's pretty
played
hard
one
not to
Suda
be at
51
least
game, but it looks good.
it's pretty hard not to be at least excited or intrigued about a
Yeah,
Suda 51 game. You got to get around to beating Killer 7. It's one of the coolest games
yeah.
ever made. It might be the coolest game ever made even today.
I mean, I've seen a lot on it, and it's definitely something I want to play for sure. But yeah, so I think that's gonna be it. I think we're gonna wrap it up now. That's a
Sounds
lot of
good.
stuff, a lot of getting caught up, a lot of games, a lot of rants about all kinds of things. Resident Evil 9. I think my pal Storm will be upset about that, but it's okay. he's he's
About my
he's actually
about my
he's
take on
really
it.
excited. He's excited for it, but um, yeah, I mean, I hope it turns out better than it looks like it's going to. Um,
I
yeah,
I
but we'll,
actually
we'll
have
see.
no faith.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think they've had too much success. Now they got to finally have a flop. It's about time.
Yeah.
I mean, between,
Yeah,
I mean,
honestly.
RE3 remake was kind of a flop, but it was still like okay, I guess. But I mean,
Yeah, I'm sure.
between
Like,
7 and 8 and 2 remake, all that, I mean, that's a lot of success, all bundled up together. But hey, it was awesome talking to you with you and getting caught up for the first time in like 3 years. And
yeah, it's been
we'll
nice.
definitely do it again for sure. Maybe
I'm down.
we can come back after RE9 releases or something like that. We'll see.
It'll just be me being like, I didn't play
Yeah.
it.
Maybe we'll get to talk about how bad it is. You never know. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Sputnik, for joining me on the
Thanks
Gaming
for
Network
having me.
podcast once again. We'll see you all next time.
Bye bye.